Hello, everybody, and welcome back here to another BSN Network podcast here today. Today is Monday, June 27th. Hope everybody had a good rest of their day yesterday and is having a good day so far here today. Hope everybody enjoyed their weekend. It was a very exciting weekend. It was a jam-packed weekend with a lot of sports, a lot of entertaining games, and a lot of excitement. You obviously had the Yankees game on Thursday night that kind of gave you a little bit of a sneak peek as to what the weekend would hold, and there was a lot of excitement from there on. Now, the Yankees did get no hit on Saturday. It wasn't pretty. It was pretty ugly, but they were able to come back yesterday down 3-0, put up 6 straight runs, and Judge with the walk-off 3-run bomb gets the Yankees to win. So that was great, but an interesting weekend for the Yankees because you get no hit. You get nothing going in the in the second game, or in the third game, or fourth game of the series, rather, on Sunday. And then late in the game, they rally and they start to get hits and get some runs, and they win the game. So it was a great weekend, and you kind of knew that series against the Astros, there was bound to be some special moments in that series, and there was. And, I'm a Yankee fan, but you got to give credit. Look, the Astros no-hit the Yankees. That's a history. That's something that's going to go down in history. That's a special moment for the Houston Astros. And the Yankees had 2 special moments where they came back on Thursday night, scored 4 in the ninth, and then they came back again yesterday afternoon, and scored 3 in the ninth. So it was bound to be a series with a lot of things happening. It was bound to be a series with a lot of excitement. So the fact that the Yankees were able to come out of it with the series split is good. It's positive. And now we head to Oakland. I shouldn't say head to Oakland. Now we welcome Oakland as the Yankees will open up a 3-game set. So all that's going on. Avalanche won the Stanley Cup as well. Mets took 2 out of 3 in Miami. They did lose yesterday, but they were able to still win the series. So, Mets right now in a little bit of a spot where I think they're in a little bit of an area, and I talked about this yesterday in my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast. If you're interested in checking that out, that's on iTunes and Apple Podcast. I talked a little bit about it yesterday. And I said on the baseball podcast, I said, the Mets right now are in a stage where it's clear that their pitching starting to maybe take not a big tumble, but it's starting to be clear that look, they're kind of running out of gas without DeGrom and Scherzer. They need Scherzer back. He'll make another rehab start on Tuesday. And the hope is he'll probably be back sometime this upcoming week. They thought he would be back for Sunday, which was yesterday. That was not the case. He wants one more rehab start, which will be tomorrow, so you'll see how that goes. If he comes out of that, I don't see why he would want another, especially the competitor that he is. I think he wants to get back as soon as possible. So, anyway, let's get to the topics for today's podcast. We got some hockey to kick things off. We got the Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup. It was a wild game. It was a wild game because to start off, the Lightning score early. They were dominating the Avalanche. It looked like the Avs were kind of, the Avs were on their heels a little bit. It's like it was almost like, all right, the Lightning are, shift away here from blowing this game open 2-3 nothing game. And then you're looking at yourself and it's like, oh gosh, here comes a game 7. But that was not the case. The Avalanche were able to weather the storm and get the win. I want to talk about the game, and I also want to talk about, because I got some notes to tell you, I also want to talk about the process and the credit that the front office of the Colorado Avalanche deserves for what they've done to this team. From the last time they made the postseason all the way until this run that they've had kind of starting in 2017, 2018, where they've made the postseason in 5 straight seasons, this year winning the Stanley Cup. So it was a tough rebuild. There was a tough couple seasons involved, but it's all about building that foundation, and what the Avalanche and their front office has done has been simply remarkable, and this is like the cherry on top of it all. So we'll get to that. I also want to talk about the Aaron Judge walk-off win. Got to talk about it. Can't go today without just denying it. It was great. Judge is on pace now, I believe, for 62 homers. And I'm going to tell you what, that is going to be a crazy, crazy, crazy conversation if we get to the final week of the season and he's 3 homers away from beating the record for the Yankees home runs. So that's how crazy it is. And it's getting even crazier. So, every time it's funny because it's always funny because every game that he hits a home run, it's like they every time he hits a home run, it's like they always are like, okay, 62 homers, 63 homers, 64 homers, 61 homers. But if he gets down to the final week and he's like 3 away from beating the record, there is going to be something special that final week of the season. That's going to be a massive, massive storyline for the New York Yankees. I'll tell you that for sure, without a doubt. So anyway, we got to get up my ESPN thing here for the Avalanche game. All right, got it up. Sorry, my phone went kind of all over the place. But, so Judge at 62 homers. We'll get to it. Or pace for 62 homers. We'll get to that all. And, like I said, if he's in the final week of that season and he's 3 homers away from beating Roger Maris's record, it's like that would be the storylines, the cover of the New York Post. It will be all over the place because that's history right there, especially in a contract year, you don't want, your contract year, you want it to be good. If you beat Roger Maris's home run record, I assume you're going to get a big payday. We'll also get to the New York sports update as always. Yankees tonight against the A's, first game of 3-game set. Mets got a day off. They'll be back in action tomorrow to host the Astros. So the Astros play the Mets on the road. Then they played the Yankees this past weekend, obviously, for 4 games. And now they stay in New York. Maybe, I don't even know if they'll switch hotels. I don't know what the deal is, but they'll stay in New York. Maybe all they got to do is just switch hotels, go over to City in Flushing and Queens, and they'll play the Mets for 2 games. And then on Thursday, they play the Yankee for 1 more game. So for Astros fans, they're probably getting sick of New York baseball because that's all they've played the past week. So anyway, with all that being said, a lot to get to. Mets, like I said, day off today. So a lot to get to today on the podcast coming out of the weekend. It's always busy. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So yesterday, last night was Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final for the NHL, and the Avalanche are victorious. They get the win 2-1 in Tampa and win the series in 6 games, and they dethrone the Tampa Bay Lightning, and maybe we got a new kind of bully in town, which is the Avalanche. Maybe this is the start of something special for the Avalanche. I'm not saying that, we'll see how this goes, right? You win a Stanley Cup, there's always that potential to be the start of a dynasty of something special. But it was a great game last night. It was a pretty wild game. It was a game of a tale of couple minutes, really. It was a tale of a couple minutes. Because to start the game, Lightning dominated, scored the early goal 3 minutes, 48 seconds in by Stamkos, and the Lightning were just dominating. The Avalanche took their only penalty early in the game. They did not. Cal McCarr, 23 seconds in, took a penalty. And they did not capitalize on that. The Lightning did not capitalize on that. But then about a minute or 2 later after the penalty was over, the Lightning ended up capitalizing and scoring. And it's funny because going into last night's game, I think the mindset was, in a way, a lot of people felt that it was a must-win for Tampa. Or not for Tampa, for the Avalanche. A lot of people felt, if it came down to a Game 7, the more experienced, no matter home ice or not, the more experienced Tampa team would have the advantage. And I would tend to agree with that. So the way last night's game started, if you're an Avalanche fan, you're thinking to yourself, oh gosh, here we go. There was a couple chances that the Lightning had. Their pressure that they put on net, the forecheck that they had early on in the game. There's a chance that any other game and against any other opponent not as good as the Avalanche, they're up 2-3. They score 2-3 more goals. But the Avalanche were able to just weather the storm just enough the rest of the first period in order to get into that second period. And you could kind of feel, that's why I said it's kind of a tale of a couple minutes, because to start the game, it was all Lightning. Avalanche, they look like the young, inexperienced road team, big game, Stanley Cup that was kind of just playing back, kind of just letting the Lightning get chances on net, letting them forecheck, just not getting the puck out of their own zone. Taking an early penalty, which Cal McCarr won the Conn Smythe, was great in the postseason, great throughout the Stanley Cup, but an early rare mistake from him, and that's sometimes rare to see from good guys like Cal McCarr and guys like that, and guys that have been so valuable. When you see guys like that maybe make an early mistake, that might be a little bit concerning as if for Bednar, the coach, and maybe a little bit for the team as a whole. But they were able to bounce back from that. And it was early on, it was all Lightning. It was all Lightning early on. And then you can kind of see the momentum shift a little bit as you got to the second period. it was towards the end of the first period, Avalanche started to get a little bit of shots, and it was almost like the game went from, all Avalanche to kind of, all right, shifting a little bit in terms of, or the game went from all Lightning, rather, and kind of shifted around and kind of was turning into the favor of the Avalanche. And you could see that towards the end of the first period. And I think that was the biggest part of the game. That first period, the fact that, and everyone's going to go, might not agree with me completely, but I think what won the Avalanche the game was the fact that they were able to do just enough to get out of that first period okay, because there was a lot of chances, a lot of forechecking from Tampa that could have easily resulted in, a couple more goals, 2-3 goals. If Tampa's against any other team, there's a chance that's a 3-0 game going into the second period. But, like I said, the quickness of the Avalanche, the just overall talent of their team was able to just do just enough to get at that early rush from Tampa. And you could start to see it shift going into the second period. And that's kind of where the game just went into all Avalanche. Because then you go into the second period, the Avalanche score a goal 1 minute and 54 seconds in. Right into that game. Score a goal right in. And it was a nice shot by McKinnon, assisted by Brian and Landeskog, and the Avalanche tie the game. And right then and there, you can kind of feel, even just in the building itself from the fans of Tampa, you can kind of just feel the momentum shift. And then then it kind of, then it's kind of just a back and forth game, action here and there. You obviously had some maybe stoppages that the Avalanche weren't quite happy about. Lightning, there was a couple plays where, you could definitely tell that the Lightning during the game were taking their time a little bit in between face-offs, trying to get as much little rest as they can, trying to throw the Avalanche, especially in the second period, because, second period from that late, the final 2-3 minutes of the first period onwards was all Avalanche. And I know they only had 2 goals to show for. It wasn't like it was a 5-1 game and they erupted for 5 goals in the second and third periods combined. But, they definitely got a lot more chances, had a lot more shots in the game as a whole. But you could definitely tell the Lightning were trying to throw the Avalanche off their game because they started to find it, and that was all started with that McKinnon goal. And then it kind of gets, where not much scoring, and then McDonough takes a penalty, and it was a 2 minutes for boarding. And that that gets killed off, and then the Avalanche score a goal. So Avalanche then score. It's Lehkonen assisted by McKinnon and Manson. And it's funny because early on McKinnon really wasn't. In that first period, it was funny. McKinnon really wasn't getting involved. Like I said, that Avalanche was just not the same team. They genuinely looked lost. They looked like a young, inexperienced team on the road, and you didn't really see that from the Avalanche in either games 3. Kucherov, game 3 and 4 played great. Sometimes, that's just going to happen. And the Avalanche couldn't really do much about it. Game 4, they won. Game 5, they lost. Lightning were just a better team. It wasn't like they got dominated. Lightning were just a little bit more experienced, better team. But in that first period, like I said, the Avalanche really looked like that inexperienced team that you didn't really see much of throughout the postseason. So, then you get McKinnon, who has a quiet first period. And you're like, all right, can he show up here? What can he do? Big game 6. So he kind of quiets everybody that maybe started complaining about McKinnon, because then he scores a minute 54 seconds into the second period, and then he assists the second goal for the Avalanche 12 minutes and 28 seconds into the second period. So Avalanche then take a 2-1 lead, and kind of from there on, there just wasn't much going for the Lightning. Wasn't many great opportunities. Avalanche continued to put pressure on net, and I thought Darcy Kemper did what he needed to do. Like I said, he's not going to make the Vasilevsky, Igor Shesterkin flashy saves where he's making, these cross-crease saves where there's a quick pass across the crease and they're making a glove save. He's not going to do that. But he's going to make the saves he needs to make. He's going to allow goals. I thought he was good last night, only allowing 1 goal. And the Lightning got a couple good quality chances, specifically early on. And I think, and Darcy Kemper, I think, should get a lot more credit for helping the Avalanche weather that early storm by the Lightning. Because I think, if he's not on his game, a couple of those shots by the Lightning definitely go in. And you're probably looking at a 3-0 lead as opposed to a 1-0 lead where it's still anybody's ball game. But it was clear that, Avalanche started to get a lot more shots on net. Avalanche had 30 shots on goal. Lightning had 23. So they really slowed down after that first, kind of 5-10 minute, kind of like 15-minute rush in the first period. And it's the truth. That first period was mainly all Avalanche. And in the second period, it was kind of all, or Lightning. And in the second period, it was kind of all Avalanche. And in the third period, it was, Avalanche still getting shots. It was a very clean game. And the biggest thing from what I take away from this game was, the Lightning had some turnovers. They had some giveaways. They had some, opportunities where, they kind of, gave the puck away and the Lightning and the Avalanche took advantage. Lightning had 17 turnovers, 17 giveaways, whatever you want to call it. Avalanche had 9. Avalanche limited them. And they were able to, I think, like I said, that first period where they were able to just weather the storm just enough gave them that momentum for the rest of the game, because the forecheck by Tampa, there was a couple bad giveaways by Avalanche. They were just not playing their game. And after that, they started to go on their game, and it showed. And, they had Avalanche also, like I said, Lightning had 17 giveaways. Avalanche outshot the Lightning 30-23, so not a major margin, but still 30 shots on goal opposed to 23 is a lot more chance, a lot more grade A, high-quality chances. But yeah, the Avalanche win. And at the end of the day, how I look at this series, how I recap it is, and I said this at the beginning of the series, and this is why I picked the Avalanche to win it all. I said at the beginning of the series, and I think a lot of people said this, I'm not giving myself too much credit. I'm just telling you what I said, because a lot of people had this feeling. I don't think many people, thought I think there's a lot of people out there that took the experience of the Lightning because they've been in the Cup 2 straight years. They've gone for their third. And you have a young Avalanche team that this is their first time in a Stanley Cup, and an Avalanche organization as a whole that hasn't won a Stanley Cup since 2001. So I think a lot of people realize that, there was a lot more experience. But I said in the beginning of this series, I said what's going to win the Avalanche this series is their youth, their speed, and their overall skill. Because I think they were the quicker team against Tampa. I think they were, the quicker, faster team, just a more energized team. I think, the Lightning, they were the more veteranized team that wasn't as quick, wasn't as maybe energized as the Avalanche. And I think that's what makes a big difference, especially when you get deep into the playoffs. You're playing up against a bunch of young 20-year-olds that are skating around with, their heads are, on fire. And then you're going up against, other guys that are upper in age that have been, playing playoff hockey all the way into June for the past 3 seasons. They're starting to get a little worn down. It takes a toll on you, and I think that's really what came down to it. And I also thought that, those first 2 games, too, was big to set the tone of the series. And unlike the Rangers, you knew the Avalanche really weren't going to let off the gas, and they didn't. They won the game. They won Game 4 in Tampa. They were able to, win game. They lost Game 5 in in Denver, but that win in Tampa in Game 4 was so big because they still went back to Tampa with this 3-2 series lead, and they got the job done. They won 2 big games on the road. That's what they needed to do, and they got the job done. They were the younger team. They were the quicker team. They were the faster team, more talented overall as a team, and the Avalanche prevail and get the win. So they won 2-1. Avalanche are your Stanley Cup champions, so congratulations to the Colorado Avalanche. I was rooting for them. I was pulling them for them because I could not root for the Lightning after them knocking out my New York Rangers. And as I always say every year with all my sports teams, hopefully this time next year, we're talking about a New York Ranger Stanley Cup championship, which I think is very, very, I'm not going to say they're going to win it all, but I think it's very possible for them to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals, get back right into that conversation of in the mix of teams to get back up there if they make a couple moves. I don't want this to turn into a Rangers talk, but I did want to give some credit because I know a lot of people give credit to what goes on the ice, and rightfully so, right? What goes on in the ice is pivotal. So I understand that what goes on the ice is very pivotal, and obviously, guys got to obviously put the product. You could draft all the guys, and they do nothing. But you could also draft, you could also sign guys and them do a lot. So at the end of the day, it is up to the players, to perform and stuff. But I got to give credit to the front office of the Colorado Avalanche, because what they've done this season has been simply remarkable. So the Avalanche, I'm going to read through their past couple years. Really, their past, I guess, 9 years of the franchise. And just show you that they took a team and kind of transformed it. Had 3 years where they missed the playoffs, 3 really bad years, specifically that 2016-2017 season where they only had 48 points. And they build up on youth, they continue to develop that youth, and now they're here now. So here we go. So in 2013-2014, the Avalanche went 52-28 and 8. They had 112 points. They lost in the first round. The organization kind of decided to take a step back, decided to go into a little bit of a rebuild, a reset, and that's what they did. 2014-2015, they went 39, 12. That's 90 points. They missed the postseason. 2015-2016, 39, 4, 82 points, missed the postseason. You see a common theme here. They got worse every year. 112 points, 90 points, 82 points. They got worse because they were rebuilding, they were resetting, they were retooling. Rock bottom was in 2016-2017, where they went 22, 56, and 4. That was good for 48 points, and they missed the postseason. So 34 less points than 2015-2016, which was 82. So 2016-2017 was rock bottom for the organization, and that's when they really started to, after that, it's like a switch flipped, and it just completely, after that, it was all uphill. Because then, in 2017-2018, a big bounce back season, 43, 30, and 9, 95 points. They lost in the first round, but they got to the postseason for the first time since 2013-2014 season. 2018-2019. A little bit of a worse regular season, but better in the postseason. 38, 30, and 14. They had 90 points. They lost in the second round. So they were able to get through the first round, lost in the second round. And you could see it. You could start to see what they were building, the foundation really starting to form with guys like McKinnon, McCarr, all those guys. 2019, 2020. Now, I have an asterisk next to this because this was the 70-game season, and it had to get transferred to the bubble, as we all know, due to COVID. They went 42, 20, and 8, 92 points, lost in the second round. Then in 2020, 2021, again, this was the shortened 56-game season. They went 39, 13, and 4, 82 points, lost in the second round. So going into this year for the Avalanche, it was a big, big season for them. Because they've now been in the postseason 4 straight years, and they have not been able to get past the second round 3 of the 4 years. They lost in the first round, the first season of making the postseason, prior to that 2013-2014 run. And in this year, here it is, 2021-2022, they went 56, 19, and 7, 119 points. That's the most the organization has had since the 2013-2014 season, and they obviously won the Stanley Cup, doing so last night with a 2-1 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this is where you got to give a ton of credit to the front office of the Avalanche, the coaching staff led by Bednar, and every piece that has been involved with this rebuild, because those 3 years of missing the playoffs, there was a couple ugly years, specifically that 22-win season that got them only 48 points. That was rock bottom. But the organization built the right foundation, brought in the right people, and you look at where they're at now. They're on the top. They're on the top of the hockey landscape as Stanley Cup champions. They are number 1. And for the first time since 2001, they are Stanley Cup champions. And it is just a great, and unbelievable job from the front office to get this thing from where it was, completely turn over the roster, bring in young guys, bring in young pieces, new coach, and all that. This front office has done a phenomenal job. You talk about building something from the ground up. That is what this organization has done. And like I said, a lot of teams are doing that. And it doesn't always go the way a lot of teams plan. But you see, when there's a clear blueprint as to what an organization wants to do, it might be painful those couple years. But those 3 years of missing the playoffs, those are big reasons why they're here now. Gathering draft capital, bringing in young assets, and that's why they're here now. Bringing in a guy like a Nathan McKinnon, an elite player that's up there with the McDavid and Austin Matthews of probably the 3 most elite hockey players in the National Hockey League. So, got to give a lot of credit to this front office. And You see this with teams. Teams decide to take one or two roads. The artificial road, where it's just acquire a bunch of known players, hope it works. Nets kind of did that. They brought in Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Those were not homegrown guys that they drafted, as we all know, right? Avalanche took the other route. Bring in homegrown talent, sure. Bring some veterans in. Bring some guys in here to mentor those guys. But a lot of homegrown, natural talent that they drafted, that they acquired with draft picks, via trade, free, all that stuff. And that's where they're at now. And that's kind of where the Rangers are going too. The Rangers sent the letter to their fans about a rebuild. And it's gone perfect. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Now it's continuing to build on that. Right? I use the Jets as an example too. There's a clear blueprint. It's all about executing it. Executing it's the hardest part. Because if you have all the pieces, that's great. But can you ultimately go out there and win and play at the highest level? Avalanche have shown they can do that, and they did it again last night. So congrats to the Avalanche. Great season for them. 119 points in the regular season, and they cap it off with a Stanley Cup victory. And pretty great stuff for the Avalanche. And I'll tell you what, City of Denver went from really a lot of pain to, things kind of looking up, because the Broncos were bad. Really, since Manning, they've been bad. Rockies have been in a rebuild for a long time. Avalanche, prior to this, sure, they made the postseason, but they've had a couple really tough exits, like I mentioned. But that's ultimately what got them here. And then you have the Nuggets, who are good, but they have still not gotten to the highest level yet of winning a championship. Now, they're close. They got Jokic. You hope Jamal Murray could stay healthy for a whole season, maybe make a move here or two, and they could start making a little bit of a run. But now you look at Colorado and Denver sports as a whole. Other than the Rockies, things are looking up, because you obviously just won a Stanley Cup for the Avalanche. So that's great. You're gonna have a parade in Denver. Broncos have Russell Wilson. No matter which way you look at it, they're going to be improved from last season. I don't know if they're going to be. I wouldn't go out and say they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but they're going to be improved. They should be improved. If they're not improved, that's a real issue. And that's a real issue for Russell Wilson, too, if they struggle, they should be improved. I think all of us agree. And you have the Nuggets, who have made the postseason consistently. It's all about just getting to that next level, and the Avalanche were able to do that. And the Nuggets, too, are kind of using the same plan as the Avs. Foundation building up. Now, to be fair, the Nuggets have brought in guys that have kind of unknown pieces that have turned into stars. Nikola Jokic got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. I don't think anybody thought Nikola Jokic would turn into the player he is today, but he has, and you got to give credit there too. So, anyway, Avalanche get the Stanley Cup. Denver sports now, Colorado sports now went from a whole lot of pain to you got a championship team, you got a Nuggets team that's going to contend as long as Jokic is playing at a high level, you know that. Rockies team that's still struggling, but, I guess you'll see whenever that turns around. And then you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback for the Broncos. So things are starting to look up for the sports teams in Colorado. So anyway, that's what I got for the Avalanche and the Stanley Cup. Coming up next, we are going to get to Aaron Judge and the walk-off win. Not really coming up next. We're going to start it right now. So Aaron Judge and the New York Yankees get the win. So we go from a little hockey here to baseball. That's how it is coming out of the weekend. It's always like that coming out of the weekend. You got a ton of sports, packed weekend, exciting weekend, and especially an exciting weekend for the New York Yankees. All right, so Yankees got the win yesterday, 6-3. And like I said, going into this series, I think all of us expected it was going to be a special series. And I know I mentioned a little bit about this in my intro, but to go a little bit more in depth with it, going into the series, you have the best team you have the two best teams in the American League, and are going at it. And that's really all you really need to know about how a series is going to go. Now, I believe going into the series, the Astros had the third best record in baseball. They now are behind the Dodgers. They have the fourth best record in baseball. So still, two top five teams, Yankees being the best record in baseball, obviously the Astros having the fourth best record in baseball, Yankees on top of the American League East, Astros on top of the American League West. And both teams went into the series up double-digit games on the second-place team in their division. Yankees were up. It's crazy. Yankees going into the series were up double-digit games on Toronto. Now, it's wild to think Toronto's now fourth. The AL East is Yankees, Red Sox, Rays, Blue Jays, Orioles. That's how it is now. And the Red Sox don't think that they're close. They're 11 games back behind the Yankees, but the Red Sox have really turned things around. I think we can all agree now that Red Sox beginning of the season was kind of just a very bad and slow start to the year. Some of it could have been the lockout. However, it is just a bad month of April. But they've been much better in the month of May, much better in the month of June. Have just been the team that I think a lot of people expected. They're 11 games above 500 now, and they're winning a lot. 7-game win streak. They're 8-2 in their last 10. So they'll probably make the postseason. I know it's early, but they'll probably make a wild card. I still don't really see a team catching up to the Yankees because you got to make up 11 games. Now, I know the Yankees and the Red Sox still got to play a lot more. This season, they've only, I think, had one series this year, and that was the opening series of the season. So they still got to play a lot more this year. But still, you went into the series, and the Yankees were, I believe, 12 games up on, I'd have to look back on my scorebook for Thursday's game, but they were 12 games up on the Blue Jays, I believe, at the time, and the Astros were like 10 games up on the Rangers. They're 10.5 now up on the Rangers, so they gained a half a game on the Texas Rangers, who just lost 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. So they gained a half a game there. So going into the series, you knew that it was going to be a series where there was going to be special moments for both teams. There was going to be, special moment for the Yankees, special moment for the Astros. It was going to be a wild 4-game set. And I don't think it disappointed because on Thursday you obviously had the Yankees walk-off victory, 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th, Judge with the walk-off single. Then Friday night was kind of just a bad night, 3-1. Yankees, didn't show up. That wasn't really a game that you put up there amongst the rest of, this was a great one. Friday night loss against the Astros that meant nothing on Amazon Prime Video, right? That wasn't really special. But Saturday and Sunday, there was some history. So you had Saturday, you had the no-hitter. So Yankees end up on the wrong side of history, which, look, you erase it, you forget about it, you move on from it. It's not good, it's ugly, but you move on from it, and the Yankees did that, and they won yesterday. So, they were able to end up, Astros ended up on the right side of history, Yankees ended up on the wrong side of history. It is what it is. I talked about this with somebody yesterday. I would not like to say that a no-hitter would happen over the course of a 162-game season, but you're going to have nights where you're going to have days where you don't hit. You might have a hit or two. Yankees didn't get a hit. So it happens. It is what it is. You move on. Yankees then come back yesterday and get the win. And there was some history because I believe it was something under the lines of, I think Judge leads the American League in walk-off home runs. That's 2 now. He had the one earlier in the year against the Blue Jays against Jordan Romano. That was an absolute shot to the second deck in left field. And then he had the one last night that was, yesterday afternoon. I keep saying last night. It was an afternoon game. And then yesterday afternoon, you had the one that was crushed into the bullpen. And what's crazy and what I found funny about that was that ball was, Judge didn't think that was out. When you could see him, because when he was rounding first, he turned around and kind of put out his arms like, greet me at first, right? Like he always does. And then he saw everybody running over to home plate. You see Nasty Nestor come out with the gum that he's always carrying. And Judge is like, home run. I don't think he threw it in. And, it was all sunny and stuff. I think Judge, too, was looking towards the dugout to kind of get him hyped up because he knew it. Because right when that ball was hit, the left fielder just turned and looked. He knew that thing was not, even if it stayed in play, he knew he wasn't going to get it. He kind of just turned and looked and was like, all right, well, that's the game. We don't get the series win. Yankees get the series split. And he ends up going home run. They, crowd him at home plate and all that stuff. But, what Judge has done is simply phenomenal. And he has completely, and I want to say this with some passion because I think it was ridiculous. And there was a tweet that, somebody posted the other, last year. And it basically said, so it was from Jared Carabas, and you probably know this guy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he tweets. I think he might be a Red Sox fan. I don't know what he is, but he hates the Yankees. And he tweeted, Aaron Judge has never had a clutch hit in his life, literally 0. That was from August 6th, 2021. So that was last year. And there was this narrative out there that Judge wasn't clutch. when you talked about the contract, people are like, oh, he doesn't come up big in big spots. And I always said, Judge, if you look at the numbers and if you actually watch the games and not just look at the highlights or the stats of the game afterwards, if you actually watch the game, Judge has had big hits over the years. They might not all be walk-offs, but there might be some big game-tying hits, some big hits where they took the lead and then maybe the other team came back and then they ended up getting, or a big hit where the Yankees take the lead and then maybe there was another big hit to continue to add on to the lead. Like DJ LeMahieu yesterday. That 2-run home run that he has. If he doesn't have that, we're not in that position in the bottom of the ninth. That tied the game for us. Right? That does not go down as a walk-off, but that goes down as a clutch hit and a big-time hit in a big-time spot in the game. And Judge has done that throughout his career. It's now this year where he's starting to put it into the walk-off category. So completely erase the narrative. Forget about the narrative that Judge isn't clutch. Because he had the walk-off hit against Tampa last year to put the Yankees into the postseason. This season he had 2 walk-offs in the same series. And he's had 2 walk-off home runs this year. I'm sure he's had others, and I might be forgetting them because there's been so many. Judge is clutch. Judge is the best player in baseball. Judge right now is the MVP frontrunner. No other way to put it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Erase the narrative that he's not clutch, because he is. And he showed it again yesterday with a big-time home run in a big-time spot to put the Yankees on top 6-3 and win the ball game with that swing of that bat. He ended up giving the bat to Spike Lee. He gets a Gatorade shower, all that good stuff. Yankees split the series, and now they play Oakland, where you should be in a good spot to sweep them. Oakland is the laughingstock of baseball. They are worse than the Reds. Surprisingly, they actually are. Their record is worse. Now, the Yankees do face a pitcher today. I believe, Paul Blackburn, I think his name, or something like that. He's actually not had a bad year. So, Yankees, kind of just unfortunate luck of the draw. But the A's just, they stink. I mean, they're bad. And I'm going to say right now, they stink. Now, if the Yankees go ahead and lose 2 out of 3 against them, maybe I'll erase my thoughts, but they stink. They're terrible. Record-wise, and I'll double-check here just to make sure, but record-wise, according to my notes, they have the worst record in baseball. And I'll double-check ESPN just to make sure. Yeah, record-wise, they are the worst. They are 25-49. 2 games back in the loss column of the Reds. Reds are 25-47. So they have a worse record than the Reds. Worst record in baseball. So yesterday's game was a pivotal win. Because it almost felt like a series win. Because despite getting no hit on Saturday, you got that win. You got the last laugh. You split the series. Like, if you would have lost yesterday and you went down, I know Stan had the solo home run. But if that would have been it for the game and the Yankees would have gotten 1 hit and you lose 3 out of 4, it would have just been a bad taste in your mouth. But the fact that the Yankees were able to get the win yesterday, thanks to DJ LeMahieu, Big G, and of course, Judge with the walk-off, which he's done so much this season. Give the man his money. Give him what he wants. He's the MVP frontrunner. He is an amazing player, having a career year. I mean, absolutely tearing the cover off the baseball all season long. And he continues to do that. And yet again, yesterday he did it. But now with the series split, it almost feels like a series win just the way things ended and with those 2 comeback wins and the way the Yankees won those 2 games. And like I said, and I know it's June 27th, and I don't want to get ahead of myself because I know there are a lot of people that think it's ridiculous when people are crowning the Yankees champions. I never said any of that. I haven't. I won't crown the Yankees a champion until the Yankees win 4 games in the World Series and hoist up the trophies. That's when you can crown a team a champion. I've always said that. You can't crown a team. Champions aren't crowned in June. They're crowned in October, and if the series goes long enough, into November, right? That's when champions are crowned. But I will always say this. At the rate we're going, Yankees are going to make the postseason. I think everybody can agree with that. Everybody else can have their own opinions on how well they'll do. That's way down the road. It's June now. Let's just enjoy the baseball season. But teams that can come back in games, and it's shown over the years, tend to be more successful in October, in the latter stages of the year, in the late parts of the season, Just because you're a lot of times in those close games, 1-2 run ball games, going into the late innings where you need those big hits. And the Yankees have a lot of guys on their team that can deliver. LeMahieu can deliver. Giancarlo Stanton can deliver. Trevino can deliver. We've all seen what he can do this year. Of course, Judge can deliver. That's what makes that thing one of the more underrated aspects of this team. That they have a lot of guys in this lineup that can deliver in big spots. Judge, Trevino, Stanton, LeMahieu, right? Hicks, he delivered on Thursday night. I wouldn't consider him a clutch hitter yet. Maybe if he shows more of that, maybe. But there's a lot of clutch hitters on this team. And there's a lot of guys that with one swing in the bat can completely change their trajectory of a season. Season, that's more for October in terms of if you're down like 3-2. But completely change the trajectory of even just a series in the regular season. Right? I mean, Judge, with the one swing of the bat on Thursday, changed that complete game. And now look, the Yankees, instead of with their backs against the wall yesterday with a 4-game sweep, they were looking at a series split. Thanks to Judge on Thursday night, and thanks again to Judge yesterday. So Judge has been phenomenal. Another walk-off. Another long ball, another home run, on pace now for 62 homers. And like I said earlier, this is a guy that if you find yourself in a spot where we're in the final week of the season, and I'd have to look, I guess, at the final week of the MLB season. I know the Yankees close out the year with the Texas Rangers, so, I know that's way down the line. But if we get to the point where we're in the final week of the season and Judge is at like 60 homers, that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun because Roger Maris's record is 61. That was in 1986. I'm all over the place here. Roger Maris's record is 61. That was in 1961. Judge is on pace for 62, which would beat it. If he's got like 3 games left and he's at like 60 homers and you're talking, okay, well, you're thinking, okay, 3 games left, give or take about 4 at-bats a game. That's about 12 at-bats. He's at 60 homers. He needs to find a way to get 2 home runs and 12 at-bats. The storylines, the media, if he goes into the final game of the season at 61 home runs and he's 1 away from tying the record, I bet you viewership in that game is through the roof. 1 away from breaking the record. So, he's on pace for 62 right now, which he keeps up this pace. That would be the record for the Yankees. But we'll see how that all plays out. So, another big day yesterday for the Yankees. Of course, another big day yesterday for Aaron Judge. And super, super excited for that win. And super excited for the continued success from this Yankee team this year. A special group, I continue to say it. And like I said, Yankees start up today against the A's for a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium before they'll head out to Houston for 1 game, rare 1 game on Thursday, then they'll play Cleveland. But the pitching matchups for the Yankees this series are going to be Monty versus Paul Blackburn today. Tomorrow, the probables are James Centillo and Frankie Montes, Frankie Montes has been a really good pitcher. And then Wednesday, it's Cole Irvin versus Luis Severino. So, it still should be a win. It's still a very winnable series for the Yankees. It's unfortunate that the Yankees have kind of it's just unfortunate, not luck of the draw. It's kind of just unfortunate that the Yankees were in this spot where they're facing up against probably the A's. James Krapilian's had a really down year for them. He had a good season last year, young, talented player. He's had a down year. But other than that, he's had a down year. But this is their best pitching that the A's have. So they're throwing out their best pitchers against the Yankees. So it kind of stinks. You wish you'd play in their worst pitchers and you could just dominate them. But it's just kind of how it is, how the games line up. So 3-game set starting today. And, let's finish things off and get to the New York sports update here. Because a lot to get to finish things off here. So like I said, Yankees, A's today. I'll just get this over with because I already talked about it. So Yankees 53-20. A's come into tonight's game 25-49. So that's a brutal record. 24 games below 500. Yankees are 23 games above 500. So big difference there in records. 7:05 p.m. Eastern on MLB Network. You can also find it on Yes Network. The A's got Paul Blackburn on the mound. He's 6-3 with a 2.97 ERA. Yankees got Jordan Montgomery on the mound. Yes, Monty, 3-1 with a 2.98 ERA. So two guys going into it with a sub-3 ERA. So it's a good pitching matchup. It really is. Over/under set at 8.5. As for the rest of baseball, you got the Nationals, Pirates, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Guardians, Twins, Cardinals, Marlins, Rangers, Royals, Dodgers, Rockies, White Sox, Angels, and Mariners, Orioles. And as for fantasy baseball, I was a winner in both leagues last week. It got close. It was definitely close for both leagues. In my main league, I am now 10-1, and I got the win 333-327. So only a 6-point win. But a win nonetheless. It was close. Tony Gonsolin came up big for me. He got me 13 points yesterday, which is what I needed. And it's funny because my pitching yesterday was terrible. And I went into yesterday confident in me winning. My pitching got me a combined -20. Berrios had -22. Jansen had -4. Kyle Gibson had -7. Tony Gonsolin was the only pitcher I had going yesterday that went yesterday and had positive points. He had 13. So thanks to Gonsolin, or else I really would have been in tough shape in the pitching world. But got the win nonetheless, and now I play up against the another opponent who is 9-2, and I beat him earlier in the season. But now I play him again, and we'll see how it goes. Should be a good matchup. So I'm 10-1 now, and today I got Vasquez, Torres, Dozier, Correa, Urshela, Judge, Blackman, Walsh, Araz, Vaughn, and Gurriel. No pitchers going today. I do have some injury updates. So Torres is day-to-day. You probably saw that you all saw they twisted his ankle yesterday. It was that weird sequence where Hicks swung through that 101-mile-an-hour fastball. Maldonado kind of pumped to throw it, and then Torres was going up, took a secondary, rolled his ankle, and it fell down and didn't get back. He got back up, but didn't get back up during the play. So Torres was diagnosed with a mild ankle sprain after leaving Sunday's win over the Astros. Meredith Rockfitz of the Yes Network reports. So mild ankle sprain, most likely will probably go towards a mild ankle sprain. Most likely will probably, day off definitely today. He probably won't play today. Don't know how long he'll be out. Hopefully it's not an IL stint, but hopefully it's maybe just a day or two, and then he'll be back. We'll see. Also got tough news on Bryce Harper, and really just tough news for the Phillies as a whole. They were able to get the win yesterday, but tough news for even baseball. When you see big-time players go down like this, it's tough. Phillies plays Harper thumb on the 10-day injury list Sunday. So he got hit and broke, I believe, his thumb or something in his hand, and he's on the IL. So tough there, but hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. And as for fantasy baseball, my other league, I am 8-3, and I got the win 253-54. So a much more comfortable win in my other league. I got Crone, LeMahieu, Witt, June, Bobby Witt, also Torres. He, as we all know, he's got the ankle issue, so don't need to read about him. Bichette, Walsh, Soto, Merrifield, Hernandez, Blackman, Araz, and George Springer. And I got Adam Wainwright on the mound. Other than that, that's really all that's going on in that league. Like I said, no pitching in my main league, but hopefully I can get the win in my main league and move to 11-1. So it's funny. Last year, I went 11-10 in my league, and I got second place. So I'm now a combined record of 21-11. So far, a year and a half into fantasy baseball, it's been going pretty good. I am one win away from tying my total amount of wins that I had last year. And 2 wins away from beating that. And we're only, 11 weeks into baseball, going into our 12th week of the baseball season. So a lot of good things happening right now in fantasy baseball, hoping to keep it going. And, yeah. So anyway, that will do it for the podcast here today. As always, I hope you all enjoyed it. And, another exciting night tonight. Yankees, A's, Mets day off. They'll be back in action tomorrow, but you got the Yankees on tonight. And, that will do it. As always, I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching.